We're back!
What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Waters, and welcome to NoLifeTilMetal.
And I'm TROG.
And we are going to be doing our 1987 Hard and Heavy video. Much requested Hard and Heavy video. I appreciate y'all watching these videos. I appreciate y'all commenting. We're going to do a little different this time, though. Where in the past we've shown 60 to 50 albums, and
it's too much.
And 1987, the amount of metal albums that we had was unreal.
And then we're getting to the point where TROG was starting to veer off in one direction and Scott's going in another, so our choices were really kind of wide apart.
Yeah, I think we had maybe 3 or 4 total that were the same.
And a bunch of years I'd never heard of.
Right.
And I was like, what's the point? I'm going to sit here and watch you do it.
Yeah.
So we did a little different this time.
Yeah, we did a little different. So anyhow, and the other thing is I decided not to be the cool guy and put all just the albums that are really obscure in there, because that seems to be... Oh, you didn't put that obscure album in there. I just picked the album that I really liked, especially from that time.
I put a couple obscure ones in.
Yeah, and I did a couple too.
I loved them, but you're going to think I'm a weirdo, but a lot of you already do. So, like when I played that Swans album in the background, a lot of you guys were just pissed off at me.
So now we have new music. Anyhow, so yeah, we've got 2 that we're going to put on as honorable mentions.
Yeah, because they really should. We're doing our top
12
and 13, so it's something oddball number just because that's how it worked out. But there were a couple albums that were this really needs to be on the list, but I don't want to put it on my list, and Scott didn't want to put it on his list. So
especially this first one here.
Yeah, I think this one definitely gets huge props because it was such a game changer at the time. I mean, 1987, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, and I won't lie, I mean, I was totally into this.
I was too. When that album came out, I couldn't play the song Welcome to the Jungle enough, man.
Oh yeah. And I didn't get into it until the next year, when it really hit big. It had already been out a year when I get into it.
Mm-hmm.
But, and it was a quick burnout. I mean, 88 I was into it, and then by 89 I was over it.
Right.
So, but there's no denying that it changed the hard rock scene, because all we had at that point was a bunch of hair metal happening, and there wasn't a lot of grit to it. Well, these guys came in and they said, well, remember when hard rock sounded like this? And remember when everyone took drugs and they were all screwed up and they didn't hide it?
Yeah, they had that.
So,
I think I liked it because they had such a big AEROSMITH vibe.
Big time. Yeah, that was my reasoning too, because 87 was a huge AEROSMITH revival too.
Yep. Alright,
so Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, definitely it needed to be mentioned, but again, we didn't want to put it on either one of our lists. So
it's just one of those albums that I don't ever listen to anymore.
Me neither.
So that's why I didn't want it on my list.
Yeah.
Anyhow, and I'm also going to include this one. I literally had, when Randy finally got his list down to 12, I still had, I don't know,
14, 15.
15, and this is one of the ones I cut off, and I feel almost guilty for cutting it off, because I really do love this record, and I played it so much, and it's not all that different from the first 3 Anvil records. Of course, they look a little different. They're getting a little...
This was after Forged in Fire, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And this is their big Enigma Metal Blade Records.
Oh, that's right, because they were on Attic before.
And they had the MTV video for Mad Dog.
I never saw that.
Oh, it's hilarious, because Lips is he's a bulldog, and all of a sudden he spins around in his lips and he's chasing after this girl. Because the girl buys the dog because she's lonely. She goes into a pet store and she buys this dog. And,
oh no!
And it's this big ugly bulldog, and then he comes home and he spins it as him, and he's chasing her around the house.
with his big vibrator slide solo thing.
So anyhow, there you go. So now we're gonna get into it. I'll go first.
Yeah, these are our top ones.
Bottom of the list, but not because I like it any less than a lot of the other stuff. Anybody who knows me knows I've had actually every single 80s one we've had. I've had this band in there in the top.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was never really big into them. I liked the couple tunes I knew by them, but
and I got into them after hearing them on. It wasn't Z-Rock. It was Metal Shop.
Oh, Metal
Shop, and they played the song.
Metal Shop.
Yeah, with that little. It was off the Yngwie album, right?
It was off the Steeler album, yeah. His Hot on Your Heels, it was the intro guitar solo. Anyhow,
I heard the song Metal, damn it, I forgot the name of it.
Heavy Metal Love.
Heavy Metal Love, thank you. And that was it. I mean, I just love this band. So anyhow.
The song that got me into them was Rock You. It was total cheeseball, but I loved it.
And that song was written by the same guy who wrote Judas Priest's. Let's see, it was on.
Aren't Rockin'?
No. A couple albums down. I'm trying to remember the name of the song.
From Screaming or from...
Sometimes We're Gonna Roll.
Oh, okay.
Same guy.
Okay.
Anyhow, this is Heat in the Streets, and if you're into Helix at all, you're going to love Heat in the Street as much as the three albums that preceded it. Wild in the Street. I almost want to start over. I'm having a hard time.
No, feck it.
Wild in the Street. Sorry. Heat in the Street is... Who's Heat in the Street?
Hell if I know.
Yeah, that's another album. Anyhow, if you're into Helix at all, you know that those last three albums and this one they're essential. It's kind of like those four albums just perfectly fit together. They're all kind of bundled together, and if you're into that style at all, it's just
No Rest for the Wicked.
Yep.
What was the one after that? Walking the Razor's Edge.
Walking the Razor's Edge, and then the blue one with the Heaven, yeah.
Something or other. Heaven Can Wait, or something about heaven. And then this one.
Yes. We're so prepared. We're so professional.
I'm not a friggin' Helix master. I'm lucky I remembered any of the album titles.
I'm just tired. So anyhow, here you go. Anyhow, so there you go. Number 13 for me. So you're number 12.
All right. Well, what we ended up doing was, since we had so few in common, we kind of split up the ones we did have in common. So we're kind of doing like a top 25, really. Mm-hmm. It comes right down to it. But they're not necessarily in order. They're just running parallel to each other. So this was a huge album for me this year because this is the first time I saw this band since 1983, and that was my first ever concert, first ever proper concert. And you know, Aerosmith during the Rock and the Hard Place years, they were kind of at their worst as far as the damage the drugs had done on them.
Although I think that they were creatively at some of their best. But.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Aerosmith, definitely, I prefer them on drugs, which is a sad statement, unfortunately. But anyway, I love their early musical legacy. Anyway, yeah, Aerosmith, Permanent Vacation. I saw them on this tour. I was so blown away. I think it put me on like a 2-year Aerosmith binge. I mean, the band, I was impressed in '83 when I saw them on Rock and a Hard Place tour, but this one, not only was it the original lineup again, which I hadn't seen before, but oh my God, they were on fire.
Yeah,
they were amazing.
Yeah, I saw that tour too.
It was so good. And I loved this album. I played the hell out of it. God, I mean, Dude Looks Like a Lady was the premiere single, and it was so catchy you couldn't help but like it at the time.
Yeah, now I can't watch it. When I listen to that song, I think of that movie with
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Yeah. But I think that song in particular hasn't aged real well.
No, not really.
But a lot of the songs have. I love Ragdoll. It's a great song.
Yeah, Ragdoll was a big one. I loved St. John.
St. John's another good one, yeah.
Oh, Hangman Jury.
Another good one.
I love the bluesy Trakalaka thing they were doing.
And then they did the Beatles cover.
Yeah, I'm Down. That was a great cover of that song, actually. Angel was an important one to me because
I loved Angel.
There was a girl involved.
Yep. And yep, me too.
Probably the one you're married to, though,
I'm married to, yep. It was in '87, yep.
Not me.
I can remember driving home in these wicked winter storms in New York where there were blizzards and there was nobody on the road because nobody's dumb enough to drive but me. Yep. And I'm driving through mountain cliffs and I'm like listening to Dude Looks Like a Lady, Angel. And
another great one is Cimaraya. I love that song. That's like classic Tyler. And Girl Keeps Coming Apart, I always like that one because there's a Frank Zappa reference in it to Dynamo Hum.
On purpose, yeah.
Buns up and kneeling, I was wheeling and a dealing.
He even actually thanks Zappa in the liner notes.
He does. But then you go and listen to Punky's Whips, and he talks about Steven Tyler being paid to see with his smiling man vagina. Anyway, yeah, Permanent Vacation, Aerosmith. To me, the last great Aerosmith album.
I don't know. I
know you keep going on. I have a hard time getting past this one. I liked Pump, but this one was the last one that really blew me away.
Yeah, I've always liked the '70s and early '80s Aerosmith the best. I think like Rock and Hard Place I think is brilliant and
love it.
Underrated. So anyhow,
even Done with Mirrors was good, but I didn't think it was as good as Permanent Vacation.
My number 12 is actually I think the only Christian metal album that made the list. Unfortunately, I think '87 was the year where Christian metal just started to really
stink.
No, I think it's the year it started to actually come around. It
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
any.
Sorry.
Because there wasn't a whole lot before that. What was there? Striper?
Oh, God, man.
Maybe Saint?
Striper, Saint. Well, you know, heavy metal and hard rock were still bedfellows, kind of early 80s, so
Rez.
to a lesser extent, Rez and Petra and that kind of thing, but whatever.
The second album from Bloodgood, which I think is probably their best album.
Detonation.
The two songs that go together, Crucify and The Messiah, are absolutely brilliant. Very.
I just played those a few weeks ago.
On your show?
Yeah, someone requested them.
Yeah, they're a great pair of songs. They have to go together. You know, it's just one of those. There's just some songs on some albums where those two songs just have to be together. Like, you know, We Will Rock You and.
That's what it was. It was a two-for show.
There you go.
And I was playing that because they were those butt up. We Will Rock You, We're the Champions.
Right.
Heartbreaker, Live and Love and Made. Those things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a great album. You got let's see what else is on here. Battle of the Flesh, a fast, almost speed metal rocker on here. Yeah, it's just mostly straightforward metal.
It's actually not a bad
Eat the
cover
Flesh.
either. It's a fairly decent painting. I mean, it's like a Sphinx playing a guitar, and it's all, but it's not as cheeseball as a lot of the covers could be. I always kind of liked it.
And I like the back too. It should have been a gatefold because it actually is.
It's all one part.
All one part, but it's not a gatefold. But yeah, it's a good album. It's solid heavy metal.
I had it on CD years ago.
Les Carlson's a great singer. The costumes were getting a little bit bizarre, but I mean, it was the 80s.
Yeah, in '87, hair metal had a firm grip.
Well, I mean, these guys look alright. I mean, you got Mark Welling. I mean, they just look metal. But then you got Michael Bloodgood over here with this. I don't know.
He's got the little.
Oh, he's got like tails.
The white fox tails or something.
Anyhow, I know a lot of people who didn't like Bloodgood and didn't never even check this one out because they didn't like the first album. Aaron, Little Theologian, and he hated that album, and I sent him a copy of this album, and then he was like, "Wow, that's amazing! How much better they got."
That's what I like about him. He's got an open mind. He doesn't completely damn a band on one album.
So anyhow, great album, and it's the only, like I said, the only Christian album that made my list.
All right, this is another one that I was huge into. Unfortunately, you know, I did get led down the primrose path of hair metal for a couple of years there. Thank you, Mr. Bon Jovi. Yeah, I had my dark years too, and this was kind of like the tail end of it, because I always was into Whitesnake. I remember the first album I got from them was Live in the Heart of the City.
Great album.
Awesome album. And that old Whitesnake bluesy dual guitar, slide guitar thing going on.
It was
Mickey
like
Moody and Bernie Marsden.
Heavy blues. That's what I always
loved it. Now this probably could not be further removed from that heavy blues sound.
Yep.
Although John Sykes' presence on the album kind of gives it credibility beyond.
And a bit of an edge.
Yes, for sure. I mean, Still of the Night, still a kick-ass song.
Yep.
I mean, that one never gets old. This album was chock full of hits. This album made them huge.
Made their hair huge too, didn't it?
Yes, it did. And then, you know, it's like as soon as this album was done, Sykes was gone, and in comes Adrian Vandenberg and Vivian Campbell for the tour. And then they just became a huge.
Tommy Aldridge too, right?
Yes, Tommy Aldridge and Rudy Sarzo.
Yep.
Which I don't believe any of those guys played on this, if I'm correct. Yeah, none of them did, because it's Sykes, Neil Murray, and Ainsley Dunbar, which is all-star cast.
And then they got the axe as soon as the album was recorded.
Yeah. I mean, Coverdale, he's paid his dues for sure. There's no faulting him there. Although we did call him David Cover Version, I think, at this period of time, because he was so much like Robert Plant. But Still of the Night was a killer track. Tunes that I'm kind of into on this one. Crying in the Rain.
It was a massive album, but it's just when I want to hear Whitesnake, that's not the one I pull anymore.
Here I Go Again and Is This Love were such huge.
Oh yeah, and Is This Love is.
And the Tawny Katane videos. I mean, it was just a huge phenomenon at the time.
Is This Love is such a product of the 80s. That whole.
It was. Everything just kind of converged, and
tearjerker.
This could never happen again. And it's cool that it didn't happen.
It didn't happen again, even for them.
No.
They tried to reproduce it.
They got Steve Vai in the band for the next one. And
it didn't.
They had a hit with an old song.
Right.
But that's about it. So, huge in '87 for me. I won't deny it. I was big into this record, but it was the tail end of the whole hair metal phenomenon for me.
My next up is actually a super heavy album, and I think this was on both of our lists.
Yes, it was. Killer album.
VOIVOD, Killing Technology, Canadian thrash band, but at this point they've refined their sound.
This is a huge step from the Roar album. The first
yeah.
two albums, War and Pain and Roar, noisy ass thrash
Right.
about his, but great stuff. I loved VOIVOD.
It was like delivered with a punk ethic.
Yes.
That's what they kind of had. Whereas
Here-
here, it's refined.
They're starting to get a little more prog.
A little more prog.
In fact, I was
definitely more technical.
I had this playing the other day on. I had my iPod on random, and Tornado came on,
Oh, nice.
and I wasn't recognizing it at first. I'm like, "This is VOIVOD. This must be one of the later tracks." And then it's coming in, Tornado. I was like, "This is off Killing Technology." It's like, no way. So even here, they were getting that prog thing in there. They were building up to some great things to come, for sure.
Yeah, I think this album's brilliant. I mean, if this would have just been my top 10 list, this would have been in my top 10.
Mine too. In fact, this was one of
This
the
is
ones
one of the ones we
common.
had in both our lists, so
Yep.
therefore it would have been in both our top lists.
So the Aerosmith was too, which
Yes.
I thought sure Scott would want to take that because he loves Aerosmith so much. But I gave him this and he gave me Aerosmith. So
there you go.
It was a kind of a
Consensus.
whatever.
But yeah. I mean, if you didn't like the first two albums, chances are you might like this
Yeah,
one.
you might start to
It's
like
still
it.
thrash.
And if
It's still heavy. It's still got a lot of
if
speed.
you get anything off of this one, you're gonna like the direction that they continued in because I grew to love them so much more than I even did in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I still do.
I always love the
their
artwork too. I
Yep.
always love their artwork.
Michael Langevin away, the drummer, he did all that stuff.
Yep.
Which what an amazing talent he is.
And he's got a style that's very unique,
Yep.
which many have ripped off since.
Oh yes, definitely. And he's done a lot of work outside of the band as well.
Yep.
I mean, it's huge.
He actually is a graphic designer, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, he's great. He's awesome.
So he doesn't want to make any money either, like me.
But you get much respect. All right. So this is. I think this was out later in the year, but again, I was still into this kind of area, and this was a huge album for me because I loved the one that preceded it. Everybody did, really. It was a huge one. DOKKEN, Back for the Attack. They were hot on the heels of Under Lock and Key,
Yep.
which is a huge hit for them.
Yep,
Really
sure
put
was.
them on the map. Everyone I knew was really looking forward to this one when it came out, and when it did, we weren't disappointed. There was some great stuff on here. Kiss of Death, Prisoner, Night by Night, Standing in the Shadows, Heaven Sent, Mr. Scary, the
Oh, yeah.
George Lynch guitar solo. Everyone was just like, "Whoa, this is awesome!" And then
I don't remember which song, but Ultimatum has a song where we kind of lifted a little bit of Mr. Scary in the song.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, Robert's like playing that lead. I'm like, that's cool. He's like, it's Mr. Scary from DOKKEN. I'm like, we got to use that.
Everybody steals from everybody.
Heck yeah. I mean, it was intentional. I mean, we did.
Yeah.
We're not hiding it.
And then, of course, they had the earlier release single Dream Warriors from the Freddy Krueger. I think it was Nightmare on
Yep.
Elm Street 4.
It was a 12-inch single.
3 or 4, one
I
of
don't remember,
those.
but yeah.
Which I always loved. I loved the song Dream Warriors. So, yeah, DOKKEN, Back for the Attack. Pretty much for me, this was the end. This was it for DOKKEN. I didn't keep up with them after that.
I like DOKKEN. I have all their stuff on CD, but neither one of us actually own this on vinyl. That's
No.
the reason he's holding up the CD.
Yep. So, yeah, Back for the Attack. Good stuff. If you like that, not quite hair metal, but they kind of straddle the edge of it, you know.
And this is where you're going to start seeing the difference between
Uh-huh.
where Randy went in the 80s and I went in the later 80s, because he went more towards the doom and stoner and that kind of slow, heavy
Yep.
rock, heavy metal.
Which
Whereas
I always
was
loved right from day one.
I was getting into yeah, me too, and I still do. But I was just deep stepped into the speed and thrash metal. So my next up is what are we on number? Let's see here, number 10, Agent Steel.
This is one I'm not familiar with. I've heard the band and I've heard like Sabbath covers that they've done, but I've never heard a full-on album by them.
They are Judas Priest on speed, rapid fire. If I could take one Judas Priest song and describe Agent Steel, it would be rapid fire.
Rapid
It's
fire.
kinda, so they've got that speed, that aggression, but it's not. I would rather than thrash, I'd call it speed metal. And I know there's not much of a difference, but you got the high, clean vocals. John Cyrus, where he kind of matches that, Judas Priest style, where he's
Yep.
got that high pitched singing,
Yep.
the vibrato, and all that kind of stuff. That's what you're going to get on here. And just really memorable songs. It's not really about speed, although there's plenty of that on here. It's more about memorable songs. It's about melody. It's about hooks and smoking guitar solos and thrash.
See, that makes it interesting to me because
Right.
if you don't have the songcraft thing down, I don't care how fast you play. I don't care how good you are. If you can't write a song, I'm not going to be interested really.
Right. And this album, of course, features, besides John Cirrus, Juan Garcia, who is a thrash metal legend on guitar. So this is actually a repressing on High Roller Records, but yeah, it's fantastic. Well deserving of to be in my top
10.
10. Yeah.
Are they still kicking?
They're still kicking, but John Cirrus hasn't been with them a long time.
Okay.
They've struggled with vocalists for years. And
Okay. This next one, again, neither of us had it on vinyl. I never see this.
Which is
on
weird.
vinyl.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I have other stuff by this band. I just
Yeah.
don't particularly have this one. And I love this record. Absolutely love it.
All right, and you can, you say tomato, I say tomato. I call them Celtic Frost. Most people call them Celtic Frost. Whatever. It's the same band. I remember when this came out,
I do
and I'm
too.
looking at it, I'm going, Mexican radio? What the hell?
And I love that cover
I
song.
know, it's great. But at first I was like, what the hell are they doing covering Mexican radio?
But that snarl he has works so
Oh,
well for that
totally,
song.
totally.
I'm on the Mexican
And that's the thing. I mean,
radio.
these guys, to a fault sometimes, they are not afraid to step so far outside of their own box. I mean, to the point where they'll alienate people like crazy.
Yep.
And they even hate themselves afterward for it.
Well, the thing about like this album, you could totally hear the transition where they were
Yes.
coming from with the earlier couple albums. And I mean, those were just so dark and
Oh yeah, and that's the forerunners to all the black metal that came
Sure.
later. Really, these guys, Hellhammer and Celtic Frost, that's all the
Venom,
early
yeah.
black metal stuff, along with Bathory and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But yeah, I mean, the other song, I Won't Dance was on there, right? Because I remember I owned the single for I Won't Dance and it had that
Yes.
that gorgeous woman on the cover. But anyhow, I just always thought that was like a soundtrack to my life.
Yes.
I love that song. I love the whole album. So it still has that rawness that the first few Celtic Frost albums have,
Yeah.
Celtic Frost albums have, but it's a little more accessible.
But and it's great cover. It's I'm not sure who painted it. I'm sure it's a famous one. It's probably from a Bosch painting or something. But Into the Pandemonium, it's like a picture of hell or something.
Yeah.
But they never really let us down as far as like their visual presentation. They're always very conscious of that. And another tune I liked on here a lot was In the Chapel,
Yep.
in the Moonlight.
Great
Just
song. That whole album is
great
really,
stuff.
really good. I'm just surprised that people were so. I don't understand why people were so shocked at the direction they took with Cold Lake after hearing this. That they were
Yeah,
kind of
and
moving that direction.
I'm one of the ones that likes Cold Lake.
And I like Cold Lake myself.
Granted, Martin Eric Gane wasn't on that one.
Right.
So that probably was one sticking point. And
Oh,
R.I.P.
well,
by the way.
And I think the
R.I.P..
biggest sticking point on that album was the way they looked more than anything else.
Oh, totally. They looked. This is the thing that was cool. I loved the way they looked at that point because I remembered what they were before, and I didn't understand what they were doing. I was like, why do they look like a hair metal band all of a sudden? And then I listened to the song. It was Cherry Orchards,
Ah,
and I'm like, if hair metal was like this, it would never die.
Right. It was a good
So I
album.
loved it. I never had a problem with it, although I can see why most people did.
Including Tom.
Oh yeah, Tom too. He calls Cold Lake an abomination now.
Yeah, it's never been re-released because of it. He won't allow it to be re-released.
And I think this was the one right prior to that one, right?
Right, yep,
yeah.
exactly.
So we're still kind of at the early.
I
This
remember
is the last one before they took that weird leap.
I just remember my college roommate. He brought this album home and we just devoured it over.
Oh,
and
yeah.
over. We were artists living in college in a room,
Yeah.
in a little apartment together. So we were always playing music, and that's when there was. And then we bought Cold Lake. I was working at a record store, and he came in. He bought Cold Lake. I gave him a nice discount on that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Anyhow, he bought Cold Lake. We took it home and listened to it. Like, I admit it. I was like, what the heck happened?
But it was still. It still probably grew on you.
Oh yeah, definitely. did.
I mean, nothing ever hit me like Morbid Tales did. That was always my favorite.
Yeah. Well, this is number 9.
You're number 9 now.
This is my number 9, and my number 9 is going to actually be shown on my phone because I'm a moron. And
Which one?
Testament.
Oh shoot. I
Yeah.
thought you were just gonna stick it on the screen while you
Yeah,
talked
I'll
about
just pull it up on my phone real quick because I pulled it up earlier. There it is. There it is.
it. Can you even see that?
The
Testament,
Legacy.
the
I
Legacy.
forgot to grab it. I grabbed all the records to bring them here, and for whatever reason, when I pulled it out, I pulled out the wrong Testament record.
It happens.
Yeah. So
for those of you who don't realize, maybe some of you don't, Scott lives in New Mexico. I live in Arizona. So when he's bringing stuff that I don't have, I don't have it, so he has to lug his records here because him and his wife can still take trips like that. I'm too damn poor. I can't go anywhere. But so when he doesn't have something, I'm TSOL. I don't have it at all.
Yeah.
So
anyhow, so yeah, I don't have this one with me. So this is their first album. This was they were formerly known as
Legacy.
Legacy.
I saw them as Legacy opening up for Megadeth in '84.
And who was singing?
With Steve Sousa on vocals.
Yeah,
and they opened for Exodus. Right, Exodus came right after them with Paul Bailoff on vocals.
Right.
A little incestuous Bay Area thrash metal.
Yeah, and then they, of course, they swiped him. And then Chuck Billy came out of a band whose name has slipped my mind right now. But they took Chuck Billy and they recorded The Legacy in '86, came out in '87. It's still one of their best albums, if not, many would say it is their best album. But you got songs like Over the Wall, which is probably one of their most memorable songs ever.
Yep.
The guitar playing on this album, it's so, I don't know, like if you take the Kill 'Em Alls or all those early, like even the Megadeth albums, they were just so raw and sloppy. But Testament brought something new to the game.
Production
they had
value.
Yeah, but it wasn't production value as far as the sound because it's still kind of crappy production. But they had it was tighter.
Okay. Oh, who's that?
Somebody from Florida.
Oh, it must be Florida Man.
Yeah.
My favorite track on here because it was the one I remembered from the show because it kind of made me chuckle because it's just like. I'm listening to the show and I didn't know any of these friggin' songs. I'd never heard of Legacy before. But the one tune that stuck out was Curse of the Legions of Death! It's just like, so when this album came out, I'm looking at it, I'm like, where is it? Where is it? It was like COTLOD. I was like, I know what that is!
Yep.
That's my favorite track.
My other favorite track, First Strike Till Deadly, is a great track. The Haunting is a killer track. But it's just a great album. So anyhow.
And I think it's cool that they gave a nod to their former name.
And Alex Skolnick, man, the guy's a shredder.
Yep.
Total shredder.
Yep.
So, great album. Yeah, and I'd like the title too because of how they,
Yeah.
And the reason they changed the name is because it was like, was it a jazz band or something like that already had the name?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the reason they changed their name.
Not the first time that's
They signed
happened.
with a major label. I mean, it wasn't Atlantic at the time. What it was Megaforce.
Right.
But Megaforce was owned by Sony.
Right, right.
So,
yeah, so at that point it probably could have been a problem.
yeah, it would have been a problem.
All right. I know you guys already think I'm weird, so this one's going to definitely put me more in that category. All right, this is a band called LAIBACH from Yugoslavia, and the album is called Opus Dei, which is, I think, their second or third album. Now, bear in mind, this is 1987. There's no such thing as industrial yet. So there's no Ministry, there's no Skinny Puppy, there's no Nine Inch Nails, all that stuff. These guys sounded like a bunch of Nazis goose-stepping down the street with these weird-ass background music going on. And the singer sang like this. So it's kind of like a precursor to Rammstein. But these guys were doing it first. And when I heard this first, I was so into it because it was so unlike anything I'd ever heard in my life. And the one thing that really grabbed me on here, I mean, there's some really jagged, distorted guitar going on, but there's also like orchestrations and huge like gang and crowd vocals going on. But they do a cover of One Vision by Queen on here. And it's just so bizarre sounding. It's almost like
87.
It's like the Third Reich got together and did a Queen cover, and the whole freaking country's singing it. And it's just a trip, and I love these guys. They went on to do a lot of cool stuff. But I really, this was definitely not one we had in common.
No, I've never even heard that one before. So
yeah.
I mean, in fact, I think because we went back and forth for weeks on these.
We did.
Trying to get this list down. And I was like, who?
Yeah, and this, it's not heavy metal. It's heavy.
Yeah.
It's definitely heavy. There's some wicked drums going on, and like I said, there's some
That's
killer
what we
guitar.
call it, hard and heavy, rather than.
So
yeah.
I didn't think this was going too much outside of the box for it, but great album for me, influential album for me personally.
And that was your number 8.
Yep.
My number 8 is surprisingly another speed metal album. This band, California, started off as a power metal band, but with this album they went full throttle into thrash metal. This is Lodge Rocket, Know Your Enemy.
Love those guys.
Love the cover art. Always thought that was just a cool cover. I mean, it's just come on. I mean, can you get
And
more
this
metal
is where
than that?
they made the jump to speed and thrash.
Yes, total speed,
'Cause-
total thrash.
Yep.
But they kept, again, they kept the memorability, they kept the melody,
Yep.
and Michael Coons had that kind of high, clean singing voice,
Yep.
as opposed to the to James Hetfield kind of gruff vocal
Yes.
style.
Well, Lazarok, they were kind of running to catch up because their first two albums were solid in the Priest kind of camp.
Yep.
Traditional heavy metal, great stuff. I was living in the Bay Area when they were just like when their Prelude to Death demo came out, and then City's Gonna Burn came out like in '84,
Right.
and then No Stranger to Danger.
Correct.
All that straightforward heavy metal. All of a sudden, Metallica comes out. Metallica comes, changed the whole friggin' game. Lazarok, they just had hit, but they hadn't gotten major success yet.
Right.
And now it's like the whole friggin' playing field just got changed. So
But it didn't sound so much different that you wouldn't recognize it's the same band.
No.
And they just stepped up the speed a little bit, is what they really did.
Yeah.
But yeah, this album, I think it took them to a new level, and they did gain quite a few fans from this album too. I just think that they were at the right time, the right sound at the right time, and great
I'm
album.
glad they were able to keep up and kept going because it would have been a shame if they'd stopped.
So Mad Axe Attack, Shit's Ugly. I mean, this great album. Demolition. What else? Hiroshima. Great song.
Now this one on the CD. This is where they had Prelude to Death on there, like it's a mystery track, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I remember that.
So anyhow, great record. Unfortunately, kind of hard. I don't think this one's been repressed on vinyl, so it's kind of hard to find. But I mean, this one deserves to be on the list for 87 just for the cover alone.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those in here too.
It's just one of those albums. I can't even say that. I didn't think I bought this as a new album in '87. I think it was a couple years later when I finally got it. But anyhow, great album. Number 8.
That's your 8. So where are me now? Is this my 7 or my 8?
This is your 7.
Okay. All right. This is another one that's definitely off the beaten path, and it's not. It's an album I didn't hear until probably 1991. Came out in '97 though. It's a band called the BEVIS FROND from it's the UK. And it's basically like a one-man band. The guy's name is Nick Salomon. And what it is it's a huge throwback to like Hendrix, acid rock. But the story of this guy is, the way I understand it, is he got in a motorcycle accident like in the mid-'80s. And with the settlement, he completely built this massive home studio. And he just started recording his own music. And he's still kicking. He's, this was in, I think the first album was in '86. This one was huge for me because this was a huge influence on my band, Troglodyte Dawn. Just the presentation and the way, the songwriting and the way it was laid out and everything. I love it. And the cover is friggin' amazing. It's very psychedelic, but it's like in a swamp. It's called Inner Marshland. I don't know what else to say about it, and I just friggin' love this album so much, and I'm so happy whenever I listen to it.
That's all. I mean, what is also music for it?
Yeah, and I mean, I had to put this one in because it's such a huge one for me. I have a copy that's framed on my wall even. That's how much I'm into it.
I remember one time, and this is totally getting off the subject, but like we always do. But I was driving down the road one time, and there was a point in my life where I was just only listening to Christian music.
Yep.
And I'm driving down the road, and I was flipping through radio stations, and I plopped onto, I think it was Z-Rock at the time. And they were playing an album side, and they played the second side of AEROSMITH Rocks all the way through. And I'm driving, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And I was just so into it. I'm like, why don't I listen to this anymore? It was just...
That's when you know it's legit, because it's just like, what have I been thinking?
It was really what it was. I was like, why am I listening to this? It was just, I mean, it sounds corny, but it gave me so much joy.
Yes, yes.
And that's what music should do for you. It should bring you some joy, It should be
and sometimes
for you.
I think we forget it. I think we get so locked into, I like this and this and this and this and this. That's what I'm going to listen to. And blah. So every once in a while, when something totally off the wall comes around, and it just knocks me out of that coma that I'm in, it's like, oh. That's why it's like, LAIBACH and BEVIS FROND, it's like, this is totally outside of what I was into at the time, but it just adds cool depth to your taste.
Dimension, that's the word I was going to use.
Yep.
Alright, so we are number 7.
Yep.
My number 7 is...